Greetings. Today marks the 42nd day since I instituted the lockdown on the 18th of June 2021. The lockdown was guided by rapidly increasing daily cases, increasing positivity rate, high admission rates in hospitals for severe and critically ill patients, and increasing number of deaths. Therefore, I had to intervene to protect the health system from getting overwhelmed by many cases and the population from mass the period of the lockdown generated by the Ministry the peak of 1,735 per day. That was per day. Every day, people confirmed with corona were 1,735 at that time, to an average. Therefore, today, when people go to check, you find only 71 have corona instead of 1,735 per day. A consistent drop in positivity rate from the highest of 22% to an average of 8% today. Before we intervene, when you will test 100 people, 22 will be having corona. But now, when we test 100 people, you find that only 8 have corona. A fall in the daily admissions of the severe and critically ill patients from 204 at the peak to less than 50 per day to today. The hospital admissions, that was also another big problem. People who were sick who were going to hospital, there were too many. That time, 204 would be seeking admission in one day. But today, 50 are the ones who want to go into the hospital, who are critically ill. There has also been a reduction in daily death. However, the drop in the daily number of deaths remains slow due to late presentation to the hospitals. This is the biggest problem. People, when this crisis started, on the 18th of March, I was on this TV, and I really told you everything the doctors had told me. And one of them was, as soon as you hear symptoms like flu, like Senyiga, even when you don't feel well, you feel like fever, you think it may be malaria, go and check corona. That's what we told you. But some people, even here in State House, we have had to take disciplinary action against the staff here. They hide. Somebody is having Senyiga, is hiding, denying. They must be able to insist, why are you, and when they check them a number of times, they have corona. Now, that's where the problem is. Because this disease apparently is very dangerous. It attacks the lungs, and you know the lungs are the only ventilation the body has. Now, when you delay, the lungs get damaged seriously. I hear even the kidneys. That's what I hear. So, when you delay, even when the corona is defeated, like one of our children who died recently, the son of Professor Kamuntu, a young boy, 45 years old, very brilliant. He was a senior man in the bank. Professor Kamuntu told me that because of delay, the boy went to hospital. Corona was already healed, but the damage to the organs was irreversible. So this delaying to report is a very, very serious mistake, and it is the main cause of death. Corona will go, but the damage to the organs is already irreversible. I would like to appreciate the population for adhering to my directives during this lockdown, which has resulted in the above-mentioned achievements. As of 29th July 2021, the country had registered 93,927 cumulative confirmed cases of COVID-19, 83,115 recoveries. So out of 93,000, 83,000 have recovered. And 2,690 deaths. This 2,690 deaths, this is recent. Because by April, I think we had lost only 200 and something people. By April, after a whole year. But because false prophets, Banabi, Abobulimba, they come and say, what the government is doing is nonsense. You go. They are stopping you because they don't want you to have rallies. Because you will have huge rallies if they don't stop you. Who can have bigger rallies than NRM? I have never seen any myself. Normally when we have rallies at Kororo, we have 1 million people. So when we were saying please don't meet, it was not that we didn't want opposition to have rallies. It was we didn't want our people to die. So you can imagine now, because by April there were no patients in the hospitals. I think March there. I know this because there is a drug we are trying, one of our indigenous drugs which we are trying. We needed patients, and there were no patients. In March, in April, I would ring Museno there. Well, how far have you gone? So we don't have patients. Because we wanted 124 patients to try our drug in them. But we didn't get these patients. When I was checking around March, they were telling me we have only got 21. Because people were not getting sick. Very few people were getting sick. But because of the mistake of the false prophets, Banabi Abobulimba, Ho ho! Coming to May, there was an explosion. So that's how we lost this all these more than 2,000 are because of the mistakes of the false prophets. Banabi Abu Limba. Otherwise, by March, I think the dead people were only like 200 and something, 60 something. Currently, there are 626 patients admitted in various hospitals. A total of 597 are in public health facilities and 29 in private health facilities. Because now we have got about 4,000 beds. We have now got 4,000 corona beds. I had told these people to target to a higher figure, but they delayed with money, procurement. But we have now 4,000 and we are moving. I think the target is like 20,000. Therefore, when we have 626 patients, it means we are using only 1/4 of the beds of the capacity we have now. Only 1/4. Chimuchakuna. But by the time we declared lockdown, all these beds were full. All these 4,000 beds were full and people were flowing, overflowing. But now you hear only 1/4 are used now. Three quarters are just idle. So it shows you that and because the government hospitals were full, that's how people went to private hospitals. And the private people were overcharging them. It all started with the false prophets. So now the people who are in the private hospitals are only 29. 626 are all in government, 597 are all in government hospitals. Of all the confirmed cases, 53,000, representing 56% of all Ugandans that have ever got corona, have happened in this second wave from the month of April 2021 to today. Down there, you will see the graph of the first wave and the second wave. But take a recall, put that graph there. Now you see how the first one climbed up around December and then came down and then was very low. You can see between the two hills, that flat ground, very, very few cases. Then it went up. Now it has come down dramatically. Now coming to the corona, put that map. You can see the corona there now. The blue ones are the clean, the blue districts are the clean districts. The ones without corona. The white ones are the ones with the 1 to 20. Then the dark, the light brown, that is 2150. The red, 51,200. The purple more than 200. So you can see the purple are the purple, that must be our dear Kampala. And then the other one on the border, is it Rakai or Chotera? And then the other one up there, is it Amuru or something? Oyam? Maybe Gulu. And then the one near the border, would that be Tororo? So the districts with the highest amount of corona people are there. Now, in the last 2 weeks, it is only Kampala that had 200. Is it per day? The 200 per day. Only Kampala was still high. Now, some of these figures are for Kampala. For Kampala, daily, in June, there were 9,852. June up to 13th. Then, up to between 14th and 20th, there were 8,000. Are these for Kampala only or for all? These are for all. Then 6,033 in June. Then 28th June, 4th July, 5,120. Then 5 to 11 July, 3,640. And now 1,885 in the whole country. The average positivity rate has been coming down, as I said, from 22, from 18 out of every 100 to now 8 out of every 100. And the average admissions are also going down. In June it was 149 per day. People who are coming to the hospital being admitted. It is now 47. The previous and the current lockdown are part of the preventive health interventions to contain the outbreak in order to protect lives and reduce death. This is in addition to the government strategy of mass vaccination. The government is using a multi-pronged approach to secure adequate vaccines for the target population of 22 million. Those are people who are 18 years and above. Scientists have informed me that children above 12 to 18 years can also be vaccinated using the Pfizer vaccine. I've directed the Ministry of Health to include this age group in their estimates and plan holistically. The following options are being used to access vaccines from the global market. Number one, purchase of vaccines through the COVAX facility. COVAX is like a shared arrangement globally. Purchase of vaccines through the African Union. Purchase of vaccines from manufacturers. Donations through the COVAX facility. An order of 2 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccines have been made with the African Union, and a down payment of $3 million has been effected, has been implemented. Delivery will begin in August 2021, which is a few days from now. Because today is 29th. 30th. So August is the day after tomorrow. I've been informed that tonight, 30th July 2021, we are receiving donations of 286,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from Norway and 300,000 doses of Sinovac vaccine from China. I would like to thank both the governments of Norway and the People's Republic of China for prioritizing the lives of Ugandans. In addition, in September, we are expecting 647,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine from the USA, 688,000 of the AstraZeneca vaccine from the COVAX facility, and 299,000 doses from the United Kingdom. This gives a total of 1.6 million doses of vaccines, which cater for 17,000 people. Although these are our donations, I have directed the Ministry of Health and Finance to urgently secure vaccines for Ugandans by paying, not just depending on donations. Due to the hoarding of vaccines by some of the actors in the world, Uganda is embarking on its own vaccine manufacturing capacity. To date, 3 candidate vaccines are at different stages of trial. Whereas this may take us some time, this is an effort in the right direction. This is an endeavor that the country would pursue to disentangle itself from dependency. As of today, a total of 1.1 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine have been administered to the population countrywide. 903,000 people have received the first dose, while 233,000 have received the second dose. During this second wave, I was informed of the challenge faced by the COVID-19 treatment facilities due to inadequate medical oxygen. But before I go into the oxygen, I should inform the Ugandans that we are now talking of the second wave. Other countries are already in the fourth wave. So we are now talking of second wave because we were careful, we had succeeded. And we could have avoided the second wave completely. Yeah. You saw that graph where it was flat from December last year. Very, very few cases. So if people had listened, we would not have gone for the second wave. Other countries are now already in wave number 4. For us, because of the false prophets, in spite of all our efforts, we are now in wave 2. So please, let's work to avoid the third wave now. On the issue of oxygen, the government is enhancing the existing oxygen production and supply at the national and regional referral hospitals in Uganda to cater for both the COVID-19 cases and other essential medical services. The procurement of gaseous oxygen plants, pressure swing adsorption is ongoing, and this will be installed in all the 15 regional referral hospitals and Bombo Military Hospital. In addition, a similar oxygen plant with a bigger capacity will be installed at Mulago Hospital. Furthermore, 3 cryogenic liquid oxygen plants will be procured and installed strategically in 3 regions of the country to complement the gaseous oxygen production. The Minister of Finance has already provided funding for this. This will solve the current oxygen crisis. When I was discussing with our team, we were targeting oxygen capacity of 24,000 cylinders per day. Was it 24,000 or 18,000? So these machines, the 16 in the referral hospitals and the 3 cryogenic, the one cryogenic is the one of liquid oxygen, which will be in 3 sites, each one producing what? 5,000? Each one. So that issue of oxygen will be solved. On the 18th of June 2021, when I instituted the lockdown, I directed the Prime Minister and the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development to define and identify persons who depend on daily income in cities and municipalities who were affected by the lockdown, assess their needs during the lockdown period, and suggest interventions to take care of their needs. From our experience with food distribution in the lockdown of 2020, Cabinet decided that each of the selected 500,000 vulnerable persons in Kampala, the 10 cities, and 31 municipalities should be given Uganda shillings 100,000 so that they can buy food of their choice. The category of people identified included the following: bus, taxi drivers and conductors, because these buses were not working, and the taxis; baggage carriers, wheelbarrow pushers, touts, traffic guides, and loaders in taxi, bus parks, and stages, and other major commercial centers such as Chikubo; barmen, DJs, I don't know who DJs are, waiters, barmaids, bouncers, bar, gym, and restaurant workers, food vendors in bus, taxi parks, and arcades, artists, musicians, and comedians, border riders, special hire drivers and Uber drivers, saloons, massage parlor workers, teachers and support staff in private schools and teachers in government schools not on the government payroll, car washers, slum dwellers, ghetto residents, street and food vendors, shoe shiners and cobblers. The beneficiaries were selected from administrative records held by the urban authorities and town clerks. That's why you should register yourself. Because when we were looking for people to give support, we said, but people, if you say you have been doing business, that business is registered. And when it is registered, all the people who work in that company are known, or they can be got from the company. So there's no question of saying, I am working but I'm not registered. Why are you not registered? Why is your company not registered? Why is your business not registered? So you can see now the advantage. If you are registered, you'd have no problem. The beneficiaries were selected from administrative records held by the urban authorities and town clerks. I've been informed that as of Friday, 30th July 2021, 500,945 beneficiaries out of the target of 500,001 had been uploaded on the online registration system. Uploaded means what? That they were they were identified and recorded. Oh, okay. So these ones had been identified and confirmed. Then a total of 462,092.3 beneficiaries had been verified and paid by Post Bank as of today. This totaled Uganda shillings 47 billion. The balance of 38,000 persons has been deferred for various reasons which are still under review by the town clerks before resubmission for payment. I'm told that the online system which we have used to register beneficiaries and submit their details to Post Bank for payment was designed by the Bazukuru, who are information technology experts at the National Information Technology Authority, NITAU, and the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. I have further been informed that if private consultants had been procured, the development of this system would have cost the government at least Uganda shillings 500 million. I therefore would like to thank this Bazukuru for being patriotic and saving public funds. Local therapeutics, local edagala, eryokuwonya. Kubanga biri bitwogeddeko byakugema okutangira oyo kaweefube gyali tumutaddemu amaanyi, naye ate waliwo n'okuwonya. Our own scientists are working around the clock to find solutions to the attack of the coronavirus. They are at different levels of development of treatment remedies using all natural products. I'm aware that several Ugandan teams have now discovered natural extracts that could have therapeutic benefits against corona-19. I'm thus working with many Ugandan scientists to ensure we follow the international standards and guidelines to avoid being labeled inferior and thereby sabotaged by international players. The molecules referred to here act in a similar manner like all the drugs that have been recommended by the WHO organization. For example, the one by Dr. Nambatia and other people. Nambatia was not alone. Nambatia was working with other people. Katenta Pudi. There is a Mtoro boy. I've forgotten his name. This one is known as UBV10N. Has molecules that stop body from excessive reaction and self-destruction. The one by Professor Patrick Ogw'ennaku of Mbara University called Covidex, and Dr. Alice Lamwaka from Guru University, Covilis 1, have direct effects on the virus as well as dampening self-destruction effects of the virus, the panic crisis. Therefore, a few Ugandans and other international skeptics shouldn't undermine our homegrown scientific efforts by telling lies about our efforts. Also, the scientists involved must follow the globally prescribed steps so that we don't give our enemies the chance to shoot down our products. Last and more importantly, we must protect the intellectual property rights of the scientists involved. I have heard of arguments around ownership of the patents and trademarks, but this is a straightforward issue. These belong to the scientists who discovered them. If the institution that employed these scientists want to benefit from their innovation, they should levy a sort of tax that the technology transfer experts refer to as sharing of royalties. Even then, much of the proceeds should go to the inventor so that we encourage our scientists to discover more. The Ministers of Health and Local Government developed a community engagement strategy, community surveillance, and home-based care guidelines and disseminated these to all districts and reoriented all the district local governments. During the lockdown, I'm informed that the following were undertaken. The district task forces were oriented to coordinate and supervise home-based care. The VHTs, community health workers, were trained on community-based disease surveillance and home-based care. The district task forces assigned one district home-based care coordinator and one village health team member to provide feedback and updates on the community engagement interventions through the established structures from parish level to the district. A mechanism for collecting information on the positive cases under home care from the communities through the health facilities was established and is functional. Because, you see, this disease is really not a serious disease if people are serious. You have heard that we have had 81,000 recoveries. And really, although I was watching the TV before I came here, that this Delta something virus variant is more effective than the other one. But otherwise, 2 meters, that was all that where the virus could infect you. So when we mobilize the people at the village level to be active and identify anybody sick and inform the health authorities nearest, and then the people are handled, we can defeat this disease as we had defeated it by January, February, March, April. So these structures in the local government are for that purpose, the use of the LC system. A mechanism for collecting information on positive cases under home-based care from the communities through the health facilities was established and is functional, as I said. Funding has been provided to the local governments to facilitate this procedure. I now direct the Minister of Local Governments to strengthen the community engagement strategy as a means of mitigating the effects of the pandemic at community level. Government response is guided by 2 costed plans. COVID-19 response plan, the one of March 2020 to June 2021, and the resurgence plan, July 2021 to June 2022. This has guided the budgetary allocation for public sensitization, provision of free care and treatment, all government treatment facilities, ambulance services in all regions of Uganda, enhancement of bed capacity, set up non-traditional treatment facilities in Nambole, e.g. Nambole, procurement of vaccines and oxygen plants, relief support for the most vulnerable population, and support to community interventions in local governments. You recall that when I instituted the 42 days lockdown, I said that I will review the restrictions if the situation improves, as indicated above. Following the 42-day lockdown, the National Task Force considered the following parameters to revisit the restrictions. The current level of COVID-19 transmissions, as shown by the drop in cases, positivity rate, and hospital admissions. That's one of the factors that we considered. Adherence to the SOPs by the population. Economic considerations for the country and the wananchi. Current coverage of vaccination. Prolonged effects of the pandemic, 17 months on the wananchi. In addition to the above, the National Planning Authority has made projections on the potential effects of the different interventions and the likely outcomes. The model analyzes a number of factors including COVID-19 cases, Human Development Index, geographical factors, population density, age, structure, and weather, among others, to give projections of the COVID-19 new cases trends. They looked at 3 options to analyze how the current cases that average 300 per day might increase or decrease on either. Full opening up would give us, with no lockdown. That was one option we considered. We open everything. Number 2, no opening up, full lockdown. Number 3, partial opening up. The result of their modeling is as below. Modeling is okutebereza oko to make some assumptions using some facts which you know, and then you project. You say, since things are like this, if they continue, they are likely to end up like that. Fully opening up, according to them, if we fully opened up, within 28 days, new cases will average about 500 per day, with a weekly average of around 2,000. This measure will take the country directly into the third wave, according to their analysis. No opening up. Continue with the full lockdown. With this option, the country will have 30 new daily infections and a weekly average of 246 new cases in the coming 28 days. So this would cut down the infections. This measure has strong and positive health benefits as the cases will reduce drastically, but it has got negative economic consequences that will impact the economic and social well-being of the people. Then we'll go to partial opening up. Okugulako ebintu ebimu. This model projects an increased number of cases in the first week to an average of 309 new cases per day, and eventually coming down to 85 new cases by the third week. The initial increase of the cases is due to the increased movement of people in the opening week. Everyone will be coming out after the 42 days of closure, and this may spike the infection rate. Cases are projected to further reduce to about 66 new cases per day by 28 days after partially easing the lockdown, based on this model. It is therefore important to ensure that there is still observance of SOPs within the partial lockdown period so as to curb the spread of the virus. The graph there is showing what I already told you, what each model will produce. That graph. Based on the scientists' advice and NPA projections, I now revise my directives as follows. Number 1, curfew time is maintained at 7 p.m. sawa muyekiro up to 5:30 sawa 11 ekitundu kumakya. All persons except the security personnel on duty and those are authorized to move should be in their homes. This is intended to avoid breaching of guidelines SOPs, and thuggery under the cover of darkness. So the curfew we maintain. Why do we maintain the curfew? Because without curfew, there will be too much socialization in the night, and that's where the disaster will be. But with the curfew, people stay in their homes. They may drink. I hear some people call it sanitizing themselves. They may sanitize themselves, but do it in their homes. That's bad, but not as bad as sanitizing when you are gathered together. So that's number one, curfew stays. Number two, borders are now allowed to move up to 1800 hours, that is 6 o'clock. Beyond 1800 hours, no border should be on the road. They are now allowed to carry one passenger at a time, or cargo. Or border, or okkirizibwa okusabaza omuntu omu yekka. They should strictly maintain SOPs. Wearing a mask is a must for both the rider and the passenger. But please don't share masks. Everybody will come with his own mask. They should strictly maintain SOPs. Wearing a mask is a must for both the rider and the passenger, as I already said. The border associations are directed to regulate themselves. Failure to comply, this directive will be reversed to the earlier position. Chikubo, roadside vending within Chikubo is banned. These will be relocated to alternative venues where vending is permitted by the KCCA. Chikubo should remain a wholesale trading center. The ministers for Kampala, RCC, KCCA, and enforcement agencies to ensure compliance of these measures. Manufacturers, wholesalers and traders should open outlets in the various towns and business centers in the outskirts of the central business district. Traders should adapt to e-commerce. Malls, arcades and other business centers have been closed. These can open and must strictly follow these guidelines. Compliance to all SOPs, presence of compliance officers is a must. Corridors and access ways have to be clear, adequate lighting and ventilation, dedicated entry and exit, install CCTV cameras where if they are not already there, proper hygiene and sanitation facilities, registration of shop owners and attendants is a must. Only those arcades that conform to the above guidelines would be allowed to open. In addition, failure to conform to any of the above will lead to closure. On the issue of barriers, this should not, people go for barriers should not exceed 20. This should be maintained. This was the previous guideline. Maintain it until the population is sufficiently vaccinated. On the issue of weddings, which were also regulated to 20 people. That should be maintained until the population is sufficiently vaccinated. So continue with small weddings. Places of worship. This should remain closed and will be reviewed after another 60 days. Alternative means of worship, i.e. online radio and TVs, are instead encouraged. A maximum of 10 leaders are allowed to lead the virtual prayers. The Minister of Health will have to explain this, the 10 of all the religions or what. She will explain it. Previously, outdoor sports events were allowed with restrictions. The international and the local accredited sports events are allowed under strict observance of SOPs. No spectators, mandatory testing of players and officials within 72 hours of the event. This is reporting, I think. Outdoor individual sports activities are allowed. If you are playing alone outside or jogging, it's allowed, especially if you have your mask on. Indoor sports activities, including gym, pool tables, those should remain closed. The pool tables and so on. Gaming and betting remain closed. Casinos, theaters and cinemas, including Bivanda, remain closed. Performing artists, concerts and comedians are advised to perform virtually. These measures shall be reviewed after 42 days. Bars remain closed, and enforcement agencies are directed to arrest and charge both the revelers and the owners who breach this directive. Restaurants previously were allowed to operate under strict observances of SOPs. These should remain open under strict observance of SOPs. These are restaurants for food, not bars. Saloons were allowed to operate under strict observance of SOPs. I agree this should be opened under strict observance of the SOPs and guidelines. Saunas and steam baths, those are super spreaders. When you go there and all the corona comes out, so this should remain closed. Saunas, if you want sauna, do it in your own shower. Just go there, put hot water. That's what sauna is. But to go into shared sauna is really madness. Schools will remain closed until sufficient vaccination of the eligible population and children aged 12 to 18 years old has taken place. The Minister of Education and Sports and National Council for Higher Education and the Minister of Health should meet and plan for the possibility of a safe reopening of medical schools. Because medical schools, we are looking at them as also health workers, because they work in hospitals. So we are thinking of giving them a special arrangement. Learning should continue virtually. Ministry of Education and Sports will provide learning materials to learners. Reduction 10% of non-core staff in the ministries, departments, and MDAs and other formal sector may now, because previously we had said only 10% office workers should be the one to report. We are now saying make them 20. Make them 20. MDAs and other formal sectors must have compliance officers to enforce SOPs. Private vehicles are now allowed to move across district borders, carrying a maximum of 3 persons, including the driver. Registered tourist vehicles should continue to move to their destination and designated places. Enforcement agencies and the task forces at all levels to ensure compliance. Minister of Health should on a bi-weekly basis flag the high-risk districts for restrictive control actions. Movement in and out of the country through Entebbe International Airport will remain open. Ministry of Health, Immigration Services, Port Health and other agencies of government to ensure compliance to the existing guidelines such as testing, isolation, etc. UPDF medical services are directed to oversee the management of the COVID-19 screening process at the Entebbe International Airport, leading to secure entry and exit. Online visa management systems be maintained. Cargo trucks are still allowed to move in and out of the country with a maximum of 2 people, driver and turnman. Drivers should possess a negative COVID-19 test result and be allowed to move. Public transport will open at strictly 50% capacity, effective Monday, 2nd August 2021. So you can travel in the taxi or the bus, but it must be 50% full. So that you are traveling, but you are not squeezed. This will be reviewed after 2 weeks. Taxi and bus owners associations must ensure adherence to this directive by their members as part of self-regulation by the appropriate associations. There must be no air conditioning in all public transport. Don't use air conditioning. See, I don't have air conditioning here. Because air conditioning is a super spreader. So when you are traveling in a bus or a taxi, don't agree when there is air conditioning. The public transport associations are directed to regulate themselves. Failure to comply with this, the directive will be reversed to the earlier position. Food markets, the food markets should remain open, but maintain strict observances of SOPs. Food markets were never closed, even previously. Seasonal markets, Ebikomera, like the ones of my group, the one of Ntungamo, Rubare, Tagarama, Chitwe, those ones, and also the food markets of Tari. Where people just come and sell and go. These should remain closed because they are super spreaders. People come from where you don't know, they gather together, then they go back. It's very dangerous. How can you control that? You don't even know how it all started. So that's why they should remain closed for now. Conferences, workshops, and seminars were banned. These remain banned except with the express permission from the Ministry of Health and related MDAs. Numbers will be restricted and testing will be carried out. The Joint Intelligence Committee are directed to continue coordinating, monitoring, and enforcing compliance of these directives. TISSC or intersectoral committee to create regional and district operations rooms to oversee the enforcement of the SOPs. The Minister of Finance, working with the Bank of Uganda, will mobilize low-cost credit for microfinance, small and medium enterprises. Government will, as a first step, immediately raise Uganda shillings 100 billion through further budget rationalization, and participating financial institutions will equally contribute to Uganda shillings 100 billion. This brings total resources available for the medium, small-scale industries to Uganda shillings 200 billion. The Minister of Finance will prepare and announce details and guidelines to this support within 2 weeks from today. I would like to appreciate the following companies who have recently supported the COVID-19 response, on top of those who I had earlier recognized during the first wave of the pandemic. Nairo Breweries Limited, 300 oxygen cylinders worth 330 million. Abusa Bank donated 160 oxygen cylinders and accessories. Ham Enterprises, he contributed vaccines of 530 million shillings. Bidco, $100,000. Manufacturers who are supporting our hospitals with medical oxygen, namely BM Steel Mbala, Casements Africa, Oxygas, Mayuga Steel, NEC, UPDF, Roofings Limited, Steel and Tubes Industries, Tembo Steel Uganda Limited, Uganda Oxygen Limited, and Pramuka Steel Limited. So, in conclusion, countrymen and countrywomen, we may say that unless, of course, the virus now they say is changing, that it is becoming, I was watching TV, that it may be as infectious as the common cold or as influenza, as influenza, which is the same as common cold, I think. No, also as chicken pox. Chicken pox is amatojo. What is chicken pox? Chicken pox is what we call amatojo. So they are saying now that the virus, this delta something, may be as infectious as amatojo, chicken pox, or like the common cold. So I don't know what that means. It is more infectious than before. It means it is more infectious. Faster. But otherwise, if it changes, then we may have another problem. Because, for instance, if it can hang in the air for some time, and you come and breathe it. But previously, it was easy to stop because it could go to only 2 meters. And unless you touch yourself in your eyes or your nose or your mouth with an unwashed hand. So it was possible to avoid it. But people, I don't know what they were thinking. Not listening is the one that has caused all these unnecessary problems. Nevertheless, Uganda is not as bad off as some of the other countries, because in some of the countries like the US, they lost 600,000 people. 600,000 people is like all the people in Arua district dying. Arua district is one of the big districts. Ontungamo district. Here, people have died 2009, the figure I read here, but not as bad as in other countries. Now we are partially opening up, as I have read. Public vehicles, transport will resume, but go with only 50%. Ekitega, ekitundu. Now, if you don't observe that, and you think you are clever, you may get problems. And of course you cause us social problems. If these measures are taken, we can avoid a third wave. And we shall have got time to get vaccination and maybe even the cures, which we are trying. I thank you and I wish you good luck.
N'emyaka 18 kusobola okuba COVID-19 alinyibwa ku nfeeta n'okoddeyo disitulikiti ez'enjawulo okubadde Kampala, Laka, Isakate ne Tororo nga kuzimu kwezo COVID-19 gyabadde akyagenda maaso n'okwegiriisa ng'ekigotta entula. Mu mbeera y'emu akinoganyiza natenga kana akadde abalwadde abali mu malwaliro ab'enjawulo abalina COVID-19 bali 626. Ekyo kitegeeza nti COVID-19 agenda akakanyizibwa. Era mu mbeera y'emu agamba nti waliwo ebituukiddwako ng'eggwanga lya Uganda mu kaweefube okulaba natenga COVID-19 alinyibwa ku nfeete nga mu byo eggwanga lya China, Norway, eggwanga lya America nabo bazze mu ngeri yankusuulidde omwoyo nga nakyo mbekedde kufumbira embaala okusobola okulaba nate nga batuwa ku ddagala erijjanjaba ekirwadde kya COVID-19. Era takomyawo nakinoganya nti Uganda etandise okukola eddagala eryayo naddala mu nteekateeka ez'okulaba nga COVID-19 ono alinyibwa ku nfeete. N'agamba nti mu muyaga guno ogwokubiri Bannayuganda bangi nnyo ababadde bayinza okugenderamu wabula nga okuva inateekawo omuggalo gw'ennaku 42 akiyambyeko eggwanga lya Uganda okusigala nte nga tukyaliko yaddeyaddeko bagerageranya n'amawanga amalala ku nsonga y'okugaba ensimbi. Atinoganyiza nti enteekateeka zatambula bulungi era abantu abali okumpi mu mitwalo 40 bafuna ensimbi abamu ze bakazaako erya nabbanja era ng'omulimu ogwo gwatambula bulungi. Atinoganyiza nga bwe tutandise enteekateeka wano mu ggwanga